Let's talk about one of history's most chilling unsolved mysteries. Back in 1959, 9 expert hikers went on an expedition deep into the remote Ural Mountains. And they never came back. What a search party found weeks later at their last campsite? Well, it's become the stuff of legend, a terrifying puzzle that still defies any easy explanation. So our story kicks off more than 60 years ago. We're in the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union, on a desolate slope the local Mansi people ominously call Kolets Yakh, which translates to Dead Mountain. It was right here that 9 people just vanished into the brutal, freezing landscape. And this, right here, is the central question that has absolutely stumped everyone for decades. See, these weren't a bunch of amateurs. These people were survival experts. So what in the world could have been so terrifying that it made them abandon their only source of shelter and run, totally unprepared, into temperatures of minus 30 degrees Celsius? To even begin to understand, we've got to look at the clues they left behind. To really wrap our heads around this mystery, we're not going to start with the hiker's journey. No, we're going to start with the bizarre and deeply disturbing scene that a search party stumbled upon weeks after they had already disappeared. You know, the timeline looks pretty simple on paper, but it really frames the entire mystery. On the night of February 1st, right after they set up camp for the night, some kind of catastrophic event happens. And for almost a whole month, nobody knew what happened to them. Not until a search party finally found the first clues of the tragedy. Okay, so this is where things get really, really weird. The search party finds the tent, and right away it tells a story of pure terror. It wasn't ripped open by an animal or some attacker from the outside. No, the hikers themselves had slashed their way out from the inside, and they left everything behind. All their life-saving gear, their boots, their warm coats, their food, and just fled into the brutal cold. That one detail alone tells you they were desperately escaping something that was inside the tent with them. So who exactly were these 9 people? You know, understanding their skill level is absolutely key to understanding why what they did seems so completely unbelievable. So you've got 9 hikers in total, 7 men and 2 women. Most of them were students or recent grads from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. They were a really tight-knit group, all connected by the shared love of adventure. They were young, super fit, and incredibly capable. And this right here is the crucial point you have to remember. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, was taking them on a trek to get a grade 3 certification. That was the highest level of difficulty for an expedition you could get in the Soviet Union at the time. Every single person on that trip was a trained, experienced skier and hiker. They knew exactly how to survive in these conditions. These are the last people you'd expect to panic. So the campsite was weird, but the mystery only gets deeper, so much deeper, when we look at what investigators found when they finally located the bodies, which were scattered over a mile from the camp. The clues were just bizarre, and a lot of them completely contradicted each other. I mean, the evidence they found on the bodies was just baffling. Sure, some of the victims had died from hypothermia, which, you'd expect, but others had suffered these horrific, violent injuries. And when you start adding in these strange reports of trace radiation, a victim's missing tongue, and this oddly discolored skin, you're way past a simple wilderness tragedy. You're into something profoundly strange. And this right here perfectly illustrates the core physical puzzle of this case. Get this, 3 of the hikers had massive internal trauma. We're talking crushed ribs, fractured skulls. The medical examiner said the force was equivalent to being hit by a car, and yet their bodies showed no external signs of impact, not a bruise, not a cut. It was as if they had been squeezed by some immense, invisible force. How is that even possible? Now, investigators did find a logical, if really tragic, explanation for at least one of the weird things they found. This condition, paradoxical undressing, is a known phenomenon in severe hypothermia cases. As your body starts to shut down, a final rush of warm blood to your skin can make you feel like you're on fire, causing you to frantically rip off your clothes. So, okay, that explains why they were found improperly dressed, but it does absolutely nothing to explain the radiation or those devastating car crash-level internal injuries. So what on earth could have happened out there? With such confusing and contradictory evidence, the theories have ranged from the purely scientific to the wildly conspiratorial. Let's dig into the leading theories and see how they stack up against the clues. For years, it's basically been a showdown between 2 major theories. On one side, you have a scientific explanation, a small slab avalanche. The idea is that a block of heavy, dense snow slid onto the tent, causing those internal injuries and making the hikers panic and cut their way out. But the critics are quick to point out that the campsite wasn't really in a classic avalanche zone, and again, these were experienced hikers. The other big theory points to a government cover-up. A secret military weapons test gone wrong? Well, that would neatly explain the pressure wave injuries, the radiation, and maybe most importantly, why the Soviet government would want to keep the whole thing quiet. You know, when there isn't one clear answer, people's imaginations tend to run wild. And that's exactly what's happened here. Some theories are still scientific, like the idea of katabatic winds. These are sudden, hurricane-force winds that can just roar down a mountainside and create this disorienting, low-frequency sound called infrasound, which can actually cause intense, irrational panic in people. And then, of course, some theories are way more out there, pointing to reports from other people in the area who saw strange orange lights in the sky that night, which has led to theories about UFOs and other strange stuff. After a really brief and kind of hurried investigation back in 1959, the official conclusion from the Soviet authorities, well, it did absolutely nothing to provide answers. In fact, it just added a whole lot more fuel to the fire. This was it. This was the official finding from the Soviet government right before they shut down the case and sealed the files for decades. The cause of death was an unknown compelling force. I mean, that's one of the most famously cryptic conclusions in the history of investigations, and it basically guaranteed this case would become a legend. So what you've got is this perfect storm of factors that created a mystery that just refuses to die. You have highly competent people acting in a completely irrational way. You've got baffling physical evidence that just doesn't add up. And you have an official government statement that sounds like it was pulled from a science fiction movie. It's a puzzle with too many pieces that just don't fit, no matter which way you try to turn them. Now, over 60 years later, we are no closer to a real definitive answer. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains this chilling testament to the unknown. And until some new, undeniable piece of evidence comes to light, the cold winds of the Ural Mountains will continue to guard their terrible secret.